Hey guys, welcome back. Drip Coach here with Drip and Farm for Poverty, where we don't trust, we verify, and operate with integrity and transparency. Today's video clip comes from CNBC with Tom Lee talking about his company and how they're trying to create a Ether or ETH treasury company similar to what MicroStrategy is doing, or strategy, sorry. But what I want to actually talk about is one little nugget he dropped. I'm not a big ETH bull. I do believe, as Rob Val said, that the future of finance will be built on that. But since I got rid of my ETH bags and I'm more of a Bitcoin maxi, I'm not even diving into any of the ETH information or speculation or where it can go. I do believe it has a solid fundamental, so I'm not against ETH at all. Shout out to y'all who have been holding and finally seeing new all-time highs around the corner for ETH. But this is actually more about the potential of Bitcoin and this trade going on behind the scenes. And this is also very similar to what Plan B stated he did with Bitcoin. Remember, Plan B was an OG Bitcoiner that recently publicly stated that he was cycling out of individual self-sovereignty of Bitcoin and getting into strategy because it's just easier. I think he's in the Netherlands. So there's some unfavorable regulation in the EU or just in the Europe area in general for people to get in and out of Bitcoin. So strategy is creating more favorable rails for countries like that. So let's go to this clip with Tom Lee. First piece where he's talking about basically how we are still going higher from here, tied to the ISM and S&P's breakout this month.
Welcome back to the exchange. Bitcoin higher by about 1%, while Ethereum is up more than 2%. That could be a good sign for stocks. That's according to my next guest, who says Bitcoin is now a leading indicator. Joining me now is Tom Lee, head of research at Fundstrat and a CNBC contributor. It's so good to have you here on set. Welcome.
Yeah, great to see you, Morgan.
Let's start right there. Bitcoin is a leading indicator. What's it indicating now?
Well, Bitcoin has been 1 month ahead of the S&P at every step this year. In January, it peaked before the S&P. It bottomed before the S&P in April. It made a new high in May, a month ahead of the S&P. And in early July, on July 9th, Bitcoin had a breakaway upside move, gaining more than 10%. That means that in this month, I think the S&P is going to have a breakaway move to the upside, towards 6,600.
Interesting, which sort of takes us to where you think the S&P is going to be priced for the year.
Well, I think that at least 6,600 is a minimum, because if we're making 6,600 in the next few weeks, then I think that probably 7,000 is a level we could touch by the end of the year.
Really?
Yeah.
What propels us to that?
Well, I think that 3 things are happening. One is the economy has survived tariff Armageddon, and it's probably strengthening because we know the ISM's been stuck below 30 or 50 for 30 months now. So finally, ISM could go above 50. The second is that we're getting closer to the Fed making a dovish pivot. I mean, they've been on hold for a long time, similar to how Kelly's birth is on pause, but that, I think, leads to a re-rate of multiples. And the third is that I think sentiment's still quite bearish. I think there's many of our clients that think we're going to have a recession because of the tariffs that started on August 1st. But I think businesses are ready to actually get through that. And that sentiment collapsing actually helps PEs.
Okay.
So let's break that down. First and foremost, if you're not familiar with the ISM, that is the ISM Manufacturing Index, economic indicator for level of health, a level of economic activity in the manufacturing sector. So basically, it's just real simply saying that anything above 50 is bullish. The market is expanding or growing. Anything below 50 is compressing or stagnant or not growing. And what he stated is that we've been below 50 for over 30 months. There was a slight peak in January, like right at the elections, 50.9, but basically the last time we were above 50 is back in, the biggest was March 2021. So we dropped below 50 pretty much September 2022. So we're coming up on literally 3 years, like you said, 30 months, almost 36 months, come next month, basically. And what's important about this, again, remember that this is tied to kind of the macro markets, but it does have a similar correlation to the relative strength index of BTC. So remember when Plan B talked about the RSI, when essentially these kind of run together. So you can look at this chart and you see the RSI, peaked here in March of 2021. Then we had the exact same thing I was showing you here, this peak March 2021. So what Plan B was mentioning with the RSI is when we get, it's a little bit different. It's not exactly the same as the ISM, but the RSI for crypto runs from like 40 to 80. So anything above 80 is more of a positive uptrend. And when we get into real massive bull run territory, that's when the RSI is above 80. And you can see in previous bull runs, we've had at least 5 months of the RSI above 80, which typically means monthly return of 40% or more. And I've shown you guys the math. I'll do it again just for shits and giggles. You can see it in real time. We take 115,000 times, where's my multiplication? 1.4. That's 1 month. Oh, hold on. That's 1 month, then times 1.4. So that's the 40%. If you want to work it, that's 2 months. This is 3 months. And this is 4 months. So that gets us very close to that $500,000 price tag. This is the 5th month. And that doesn't mean they run back to back, but you can see how quickly Bitcoin can get out of hand. And 40% is the low end. When you have an RSI above 80, it can be 40 to 50, 60, 70%, right? So 40% is just that minimum. So I'm bringing this up because, again, Tom Lee is kind of a guru in regards to macroeconomics and what he does, and just stating that a lot of people believe that there's some recessionary fears, and you can even see the fear and greed index is still pretty much in the middle. There's a little bit of greed, a little north of the fear, the neutral side. But a lot of people, like you mentioned before, might be caught off sides because they're factoring in all these other things. And to Tom, what he's seeing is that the market has been coiled and ready to pop. So we'll just have to wait and see. But again, the TLDR that I keep telling you guys, stay humble, stack sats. You don't have to worry about any of this stuff at all. But I like to bring it up because, it helps you keep everything in perspective as to what's going on. So understanding the RSI and the ISM can help you plan accordingly, or at least speculate of potentially where things can go. Now let's get to this really, what I feel is crazy important regarding the strategies amount of Bitcoin that they've accumulated, what could happen in the future.
Ethereum.
And which is why you're now the chair of BitMine, which is looking to build out this treasury of Ethereum, not so differently than we've seen Michael Saylor do with Bitcoin at Strategy.
Yes, that's right. So I think that MicroStrategy has written the playbook for what a Bitcoin treasury is, and now he's so big he has a sovereign put, right? He has 600,000 Bitcoin. Any nation that wants to get 1 million Bitcoin probably thinks it's cheaper to buy MicroStrategy. The Ethereum...
Just leaving that there, because that sovereign put, if you're not familiar, that's kind of what phrase he just kind of coined tongue-in-cheek there. But what that really means is that it's a scenario where Strategy's holdings are so vast, and he already stated that they want to get to 1 million Bitcoin. So it becomes a strategic on-ramp for nation states or wealth funds or anyone with access to large amounts of capital. It's easier for them to actually just buy Strategy. And remember, there's 4 different quote unquote strategies where all of them are basically trying to get you leverage on Bitcoin or get you more Bitcoin per share. So when we look at Strategy, they're sitting here at $366 a share. That is way easier for companies, countries, whatever, sovereign wealth funds to decide to allocate towards this than it could be for them to try to buy BTC at the market. Because if you think about it, like, let's just say the $1 million Bitcoin, there's very, very little likelihood of a company actually, or country actually being able to purchase 1 million BTC OTC. Like, there's 2.2 across all exchanges. and none of the exchanges have 1 million in the balance. So that requires some finagling, some behind the scenes stuff. So it definitely would be behind the scenes to do that. But if they did, remember that's going to skyrocket the price. And just to put that in perspective at all, it's $115 billion. Well, they can get much, much more shares by acquiring Strategy instead. So no brainer that they are sitting at the top of the food chain with the amount of Bitcoin that they have acquired. And then the more money that gets funneled into here, then the more they can acquire. So it becomes this flywheel that just cannot be stopped. And like I mentioned in the opening, there are people and countries that could find it easier to just go here and purchase this than it could be to get Bitcoin into self-custody. Now, by all means, I know and you know that self-custody is the way to go, but we can't argue that there are guardrails in place and there are complexities, especially when you're talking millions and billions of dollars in regards to, say you're a country and you want to hold your own Bitcoin. Well, how do you self-custody that? What are the rules in place for that? It's not a vault like gold that you can just store. It becomes a seed phrase or key. How many people have access to those keys? How do you decentralize that so not one person has it, just runs off with the Bitcoin and you can't find out where it went? Because it's not like physical, right? So yeah, you can see it on the blockchain and watch it in a wallet, but there's just a lot of unknowns with that. So I could see this being an option is all I'm saying. I don't know if that's what's going to happen. And I was wondering if there was a way for the US to even lay claim to this through like some kind of strategic acquisition. Like, could the government absorb or acquire Strategy? I don't think there's any kind of precedent for that, but wouldn't that be some crazy shit if the government's like, yeah, well, we can't acquire 1 million Bitcoin, but we can acquire Strategy, so we're going to go ahead and do that. I don't know how that would work or if that could work at all, but you know, it's just interesting to see that they are the closest to getting that 1 million figure. And the more that they absorb, the faster that flywheel goes and the harder it is for others to get their hands on it. So take all this with kind of a grain of salt, put it into your tinfoil hat theory of what could happen to Bitcoin, but we can clearly see the playbook for Strategy and they are not backing down at all. And then the mentioning from Tom Lee about the ISM and tying that to the RSI and just seeing this flywheel take place, we could still be in for a huge blow off top later on this year, well into next year. Like nobody really knows. So again, my TLDR that I keep harping on is don't really worry about all this. This is all noise. I'm just showing you because I find it fascinating and it's exciting to see where BTC is going. But all you should really be focused on is staying humble, stacking sats, and not getting caught offsides or with your pants down because you were waiting for some massive pullback, or you were dumb like me in the last cycle and you got all your money in shit tokens. So do not do any of that. Stay humble, stack sats, not financial advice, of course. Never sell your Bitcoin. Smash that HFL special, help a brother out, like, subscribe, comment down below, and until next time, lift daily and achieve your impossible. See ya.